London loves magic, but it loves rivalry even more. On stage, illusion looks elegant. Off stage, obsession looks like hunger with a human face. And in the prestige, that hunger consumes everything. At the start, two young magicians work under the same mentor. Cutter, a skilled engineer of deception, and Milton, an old-fashioned performer who understands that a trick is not just mechanics. It is theater, it is control. It is making people want to believe. Those two young men are Robert Angier and Alfred Borden. At first, they are not enemies. They are partners in craft, both ambitious, both talented, both desperate to rise beyond the role of assistants. But they are very different men. Angier, his charisma, he is Polish, elegance, stage presence, and the ability to make people look where he wants them to look. Borden is raw, commitment. He is technique, precision, and the kind of devotion that starts where comfort ends. Everything changes during a water tank escape. Angier's wife, Julia, performs the stunt. She is tied, lowered into a tank, and supposed to escape. Something goes wrong. The knot is different. The rope does not release in time. She drowns in front of a screaming audience while Angier watches helplessly. The death poisons everything. Angier is certain Borden tied the wrong knot. Borden insists he does not know which knot he used. It sounds impossible, even cruel, that a man would not know. But Borden says it anyway, and from that moment on, grief mutates into hatred. Angier does not just lose his wife. He loses any ability to imagine Borden as a rival he can respect. In his mind, Borden becomes the man who stole his future, and everything that follows grows out of that wound. Borden moves forward faster. He builds a reputation. His tricks are rougher, less policed, but they carry something powerful. Authenticity. He looks like a man willing to suffer for the illusion, and audiences can feel it. Then he creates a trick that changes both their lives. The transported man. On stage, Borden tosses a ball, steps through one cabinet, and appears instantly through another across the stage. It looks impossible. No trapdoor anyone can spot. No obvious double. No clean explanation. The crowd loses its mind, and GR sees the trick and realizes something terrifying. Borden has found the one thing every magician wants, an effect so pure, so clean, that it destroys anyone competing in the same space. From that moment on, the prestige stops being about magic as performance and becomes a war over method. Angier does not only want to match the trick, he wants to know how Borden does it. He wants the secret, because without it he cannot live with the idea that another man has surpassed him. If you enjoy dark movie stories like this, subscribe to Cinema Trigger, leave a like, and comment the next movie you want covered, because this story is not really about stage magic, it is about obsession, sacrifice, and the way rivalry can turn talent into... Angier asks Cutter to help him recreate the trick. Cutter, practical as ever, gives the simplest answer. Use a double. One man appears to teleport because another man looks exactly like him and completes the illusion. In magic, the effect matters more than the purity of the method. But Angier hates that answer. He does not just want the audience fooled. He wants to know that he has equaled Borden on the deepest level. He wants the method to feel worthy, that pride will destroy him. He finds a drunken actor named Root, who looks enough like him to make the illusion work. Weak training, costume, and distance. Root becomes Angier's secret weapon. Together, they perform their own version of the transported man. The trick is a success, but Angier cannot enjoy it. Every performance humiliates him, because he is the man who disappears under the stage while the double receives the applause above. He understands the audience is fooled. Pate is not. To him, the compromise is unbearable. That detail is crucial. Most magicians would accept success. Angier wants superiority. He wants not only the applause, but the knowledge that he has achieved the impossible in the purest way. He is not addicted to magic. He is addicted to winning. Borden, meanwhile, lives as if his entire body is devoted to craft. He injures himself for tricks. He neglects ordinary tenderness. He seems to carry one life on stage and another off it, and even the people closest to him can feel something fractured inside him. He marries Sarah, who loves him but never fully understands him. Some days he feels warm, intimate, and present. Other days he feels distant, distracted, almost like another person wearing the same face. That inconsistency becomes one of the film's most painful clues. Borden also forms a bond with Olivia Angier's assistant after she is sent to spy on him, but the same fracture appears there too. One version of Borden seems capable of love. Another seems emotionally unreachable. The women around him do not understand the pattern, only the pain it causes. Angier and Borden begin sabotaging each other directly. One ruins another's performance. One injures another's hand. One interferes with a bird trick and bloodies a stage in front of an audience. Every act of revenge creates another, and soon the rivalry no longer has limits. It infects work, love, identity, and every future choice either man could have made differently. Then comes one of the most revealing conversations in the film. Cutter explains that every magic trick has three parts: the pledge, the turn, and the prestige. The pledge shows you something ordinary. The turn makes that ordinary thing do something extraordinary. But the prestige, the final act, is the part that brings it back, completes the lie, and makes the audience feel wonder instead of confusion. That structure does not only describe magic, it describes the entire movie, and more importantly, it describes the lives of these men. They keep chasing the final moment of triumph, the prestige, without realizing that every step toward it demands more than they can afford to lose. Angier becomes convinced that Borden's diary contains the secret to the transported man. He steals it and reads it obsessively, hoping to find the answer in Borden's own words. Instead, he finds another layer of deception. The diary itself is partly written as a trap for Angier. It leads him toward Colorado, toward the famous inventor Nikola Tesla, and toward the possibility that Borden's trick depends on something beyond normal stagecraft. Beat this point, Angier is willing to believe almost anything. That is what obsession does. It widens the range of absurdity you are willing to accept, as long as that absurdity offers one more chance to outdo the person you hate. In America, Angier meets Tesla, who is building a machine that appears to do the impossible. At first, it seems like another dead end, another expensive illusion, another humiliating detour in a rivalry that has already consumed too much of his life. Then the machine works, but it does not transport objects, it duplicates them. A hat becomes two hats. A cat becomes two cats. The result is not movement, but replication. Not one thing moved across space, but two identical things, occupying reality at once. That should be a miracle. In Angier's hands, it becomes a nightmare. Because now he sees a way to perform a version of the transported man that no audience, no rival, and no practical magician could ever explain. He can step into the machine, create a duplicate, and emerge in another location. But the machine creates a horrifying problem. If two identical men exist, which one is the original, and which one is supposed to die? Angier solves that problem in the darkest way possible. Every night he performs the trick. One version of himself drops through a trapdoor into a tank of water and drowns. The other appears on stage and receives the applause. This is what separates the prestige from a story about professional rivalry and turns it into a story about self. Angier does not merely risk his life for the perfect trick. He kills himself repeatedly for it. Maybe each night, the man on stage is the original. Maybe each night, the original dies beneath the stage. Angier himself can never know. That uncertainty becomes part of the horror. To win, he builds a system where success requires the death of a self. Borden cannot understand how Angier is now performing an even more impossible trick. The rivalry turns again. The hunter becomes hunted. Borden investigates, sneaks backstage, and finally witnesses the truth rouse of tanks, each containing dead versions of Angier. He sees the cost behind the illusion. But before he can escape, he is framed for Angier's murder. One version of Angier dies in the tank that night. The surviving version lets the law take Borden. It is revenge with theatrical symmetry. Angier does not only want Borden ruined, he wants him condemned publicly, permanently, and without explanation. Borden is imprisoned and sentenced to death. Even in the cell, he refuses to reveal the secret of his own transported man. That refusal infuriates everyone, because by now, the audience expects the final explanation. The film delays it, because the explanation is not mechanical. It is human. Cutter, who once served Angier, slowly realizes that the man still moving through the shadows after the trial is not a ghost, not a miracle, but the surviving Angier operating under another identity. Even he begins to understand that the rivalry has crossed beyond obsession into monstrosity. And still, Borden protects his secret. At first, it seems like ego, then loyalty, then maybe just madness. But the truth is more painful and more impressive than any machine. Borden was never one man. He was two identical twin brothers, living a single life. They shared the identity of Alfred Borden completely. One loved Sarah, the other loved Olivia. One tied, one not. The other may have tied another. One lived certain moments, the other inherited the consequences. That is why Borden could honestly say he did not know which knot he tied. Sometimes he truly did not. That is why he seemed to love inconsistently, because two men were living one marriage. That is why his commitment to magic felt absolute, because the trick was not a trick they performed sometimes. It was their entire existence. They sacrificed individuality for greatness. They did not just fake a teleportation act. They erased themselves into a single persona so completely that every day of their lives became part of the illusion. One brother lived while the other waited. One fathered tenderness while the other carried distance. One took applause while the other took solitude. Their method was brutal in its own way, but it was grounded in discipline rather than machinery. The reveal redefines everything. Angier used science to manufacture perfection, then drowned himself night after night to preserve it. Borden used human sacrifice of a different kind. Identity, love, constancy, ordinary life. He and his brother lived half-lives to create one impossible whole. Both men achieved greatness. Both men destroyed everything that could have made greatness worth having. Sarah sensed the fracture in Borden long before she understood it. She knew that some days her husband loved her and other days he did not. She was not imagining things. She was living inside a marriage shared between two souls, only one of whom truly loved her. That truth crushes her. Eventually, Sarah takes her own life, and her death becomes one more piece of collateral damage in a war between men who tell themselves they are pursuing excellence while leaving wreckage behind them. Olivia's used to, passed between rival worlds, manipulated as spy, lover, and leverage. No relationship in this story survives obsession. The trick always comes first. The human cost always gets hidden backstage. When the condemned Borden faces execution, the surviving twin finally comes for him, but he is too late. One brother dies. Half the illusion is destroyed forever. The surviving brother then confronts Angier in his hidden theater. There, among the tanks and corpses, the final truths settle into place. Cutter arrives too, and together they reveal that they now understand everything. Angier, still clinging to the pride of his achievement, asks Borden if his secret was worth the cost. It is a bitter question coming from a man standing beside dozens of his own dead bodies. Borden shoots Angier and lets him die, knowing that the perfect prestige he worshipped was never free, never noble, and never enough to heal what started the war in the first place. The surviving brother returns to Borden's daughter, Jess, reclaiming the child from the life their obsession almost destroyed completely. It is the closest thing the movie offers to restoration, but even that ending is scarred by everything lost to reach it. What makes the prestige so powerful is that it never treats obsession as glamorous for long. At first, dedication looks admirable. Sacrifice looks noble. Rivalry looks like fuel for excellence. But slowly the film reveals the rot under each idea. Angier is not pursuing wonder anymore. He is pursuing the defeat of another man at any cost. Borden and his twin are not only devoted artists, they are men willing to fracture every human relationship around them to keep a secret alive. Cutter, the most practical man in the story, understands the danger before anyone else. He knows illusions work because the audience wants to be fooled. They want the prestige badly enough to ignore the suffering required to build it. That idea reaches beyond the stage. We as viewers want the impossible trick. We want the answer to be brilliant. We want the reveal to make us gasp. The film gives us that, but only after making us look directly at the cost hidden behind the curtain. The transported man is not impressive because it is clever. It is horrifying because both methods demand a kind of death. For Borden, the death is metaphorical but constant. A full identity is buried so that one greater illusion can live. For Angier, the death is literal, repeated, and wrapped in applause, and both men choose it. That choice is the darkest part of the film. No one forces them to keep going this far. Grief begins the rivalry, yes. Pride deepens it. Yes, but eventually both men keep feeding it willingly, because obsession becomes easier to live with than emptiness. Magic in the Prestige is never really about wonder. It is about what people are willing to destroy to create wonder in others. The audience claps for a beautiful moment without seeing the ruined lives beneath it. That blindness is built into the structure of performance itself. Even the title matters more the longer you sit with it. Prestige sounds glamorous, elegant, victorious. But here, the prestige is not just the final reveal. It is the lie that makes all previous suffering feel meaningful for one brief moment. And that is how obsession tricks people in real life too. Keep sacrificing now, it says. Keep bleeding now. The final moment will justify everything. But in the prestige, that final moment never truly heals anyone. It only leaves fewer people alive to regret it. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Cinema Trigger, leave a like, and comment the next movie you want covered. Because the darkest rivalries are not the ones where one man defeats another. They are the ones where both men destroy themselves, chasing the same impossible applause.